I lived with my grandparents in Shanghai, China from the age of about 3 to 5 years old. And I remember distinctly a familiar stinky smell that I would smell every single time I entered my grandmother's kitchen table. The stinkiness was from a Chinese dish called Tofu, or stinky tofu. So I personally am not a picky eater, but the first time I tried this dish, I just could not put that thing in my mouth. The odor was so bad, it yanked my appetite straight out of my stomach. I remember my grandmother telling me, "Kane, just give it a try. It's supposed to stink." So I would inhale my last breath of fresh air, pinch my nose, and I put it in my mouth. And to my surprise, the tofu underneath the crispy layer was soft and warm and welcoming. From that day on, every time I smelled that stinky aroma of the stinky tofu, I would run into my grandmother's kitchen table with excitement. Now, along with stinky tofu, I would encounter my uncle on every visit to my grandmother's house. And my uncle, he had Down syndrome. As a young, immature child, I never fully understood his condition of Down syndrome. My understanding of his condition was limited to a patchwork of assumptions. His bony cheeks and folded eyelids scared me. He looked like a monster. Every time he came near me, I would run away and hide with fear. However, one day, my perception of my uncle changed forever. As I was just getting out of bed, I heard soft steps approaching me. It was my uncle. My muscles twitched, then froze. My uncle slowly slumped next to me, and he started caressing my face gently, just as a mother would caress her infant child. My fear gradually began to subside, and my muscles relaxed. For the first time, I didn't see cold hostility in the dark abyss of his eyes, but I saw softness and warmth. My uncle had this one distinctive trait that really stood out to me. It was his smile. It was the type of smile that would embrace you in a joyous warmth. It was the type of smile that you couldn't help but smile back. I quickly realized that although my uncle has physical limitations, his happiness withholds no boundaries. Through his eyes, I saw a whole world of his own, and I was glad to be part of it. And although I still did not understand my uncle's condition of Down syndrome, I came to accept him as he came to accept me. Now, my uncle very much resembles stinky tofu. Stinky tofu smells absolutely noxious on the outside, yet on the inside it tastes soft and warm. Like stinky tofu, my uncle's condition of Down syndrome makes him unappealing on the outside, yet on the inside, he had a soft, warm, and loving nature. As much as I enjoyed eating stinky tofu, my grandmother offered me a different sort of dish. This dish, I observed, was love. I would often see my grandmother in the kitchen table feeding spoon after spoon to my uncle. Her hands never stopped. She never cared to stop, for her love for my uncle never subsided, and it never ceased. I can imagine 50 years ago, at the same exact kitchen table, my grandmother feeding my infant uncle with this exact same tenderness and care. Now listen to this. This point is important. To this day, it is common for Chinese households to abandon their child if they have a disorder. Now the word abandon did not exist in my grandmother's vocabulary. For my grandmother, caring for my uncle was not an obligation out of necessity, but an obligation out of love. Through my grandmother's action and my encounter with my uncle, I realized that people with Down syndrome are just as beautiful and unique as the rest of us. But our society tends to see disabled people differently. People immediately look down on disabled people and deem them unfitting for a regular life. Just as I wasn't able to see through the crispy layer of the stinky tofu, society is unable to see through the layer of prejudice. As a result, people judge disabled people upon whiffing their stinky presence. Besides being delicious, stinky tofu offers an extremely valuable lesson. To never judge a person upon first glance, for genuine beauty comes from the inside. Now, as an audience, I would encourage all of you guys to go out and take your first bite of stinky tofu. And to end this speech, I would like to this speech was dedicated to my uncle, which 3 days ago I learned that he has passed away. And I would like to dedicate this speech to him. Thank you.